Alright, there are three different reporters that we have to create for the exercises. So let's go to the code tab here. The first one is fourth. That would report back the fourth power of the argument that we give it. And so we need an argument name. And by the way, the argument name can be anything we please. And so we're going to call it Fred. And there are at least three different ways that we can actually calculate this fourth power of Fred. The simplest one is to say report Fred times Fred times Fred times Fred. And we have to remember the end. Okay, and if we go back to the interface, we can actually test this out. And the fourth power of 3 is, well, it's 3 times 3, which is 9, and that squared is 81. And so let's see, that's 81, and so that verifies it. Let's go back to the code and try another couple of ways that we can actually calculate the fourth power. And here is another way that we can calculate the fourth power. Again, we go back and we recall that command, and it is still 81, and so we're fine. And we see that this caret symbol stands for exponentiation or power. And the third way, different way that we can calculate the fourth power is to make use of an already existent function called square, which we've already developed here. And so that would be the square of the square of Fred. Let's try that. Again, print a fourth power. Again, 81, and so we're done with that. Okay, second exercise is to provide the numbers between 10 and 20, but every even number with equal probability. That's 10 and 12 and 14 and 16, 18 and 20. I'll just put this comment here. Comment again, starting with a semicolon right there. Anything starting with a semicolon to the end of the line is ignored by NetLogo, and we can leave that for commentary for us as human beings to read. So we want to report 10, 20. Now this particular reporter doesn't require any information coming in from the outside world to guide it. It will just spit back one of the numbers that we have listed above, and so it doesn't require an argument. And so we can get straight to trying to calculate one of those numbers. Now, how many are there? Well, 6. And so if there are 6 numbers, then the way to get the random function to produce one of 6 possibilities is immediately to ask it to choose between 6 numbers, although these are not the right numbers. We can take these numbers, which are 0 through 5, and then fix them up for the appropriate range. We can multiply them by 2. And now these are the numbers not 0 through 5, but 0 through 10. That would be 0 and 2 and 4 and 6 and 8 and 10. And those are also not quite the right range. We need to start at 10 for this. And so 10 plus that will give us those numbers. And we need to report that and end it. And that should actually take care of it. So let's test it out. And that gives us a value of 12. Let's move this up a little bit because we're not interested in the interface. Let's try it again, and there's 18 and 10 and 16 and 16 and 14 and 20, etc. It is giving us back those numbers. For our final exercise, we want the numbers equally between two values, a low value and a high value. Let's think of a possibility. How about between 6 and 9? So that would be 6 and 7 and 8 and 9. So if the low value is 6 and the high value is 9, how many numbers are there? Well, there's a difference between them, which is 3, but that's not quite right because there's another end point that we've forgotten. So it's the difference between the two numbers subtracted plus 1. and that's the total number of numbers that we have to consider. And so when we actually create the function, now this function requires 2 arguments, and the way to provide those 2 arguments is to put both of them side by side inside the square brackets separated by a space. And so we have to name them, and we can name them anything we please. An easy one to name is low and high, so that we can remember what they're used for. And what we need to do is we need to give the random function a certain number of choices that it has to select between. And how many are there? Well, we calculated that it is the difference between low and high plus 1. And so we're going to give random high minus low plus 1. That's the number of choices that it can go between. But it's still not quite the right range. Remember, if it's 6 through 9, this will give us 9 minus 6 plus 1, which is 4. And so random will give us numbers 0, 1, 2, or 3. But we want 6, 7, or 8, or 9. And so we have to add in the low value. And so now this is 6 plus any one of the numbers 0 through 3, and that will give it to us. And so we have to report this back and end it. And let's try this in the interface. And here we provide 2 arguments, let's say 6 and 9. And this time it gives us a 6, this time a 9, and an 8, a 7, a 9, etc. And it seems to be working quite well. And that's